Okay, so there's three ways to write exponents. You can write it as an exponent with the little number, right? You can write it in expanded form, what it actually means, and then you can plug it into your calculator and get a number, an answer. Okay, that's what all of these mean. So 3 to the fifth means 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And if I put all of those in my calculator, I get 243. Okay, same thing here. There's 8 of these, so it means 2 to the eighth, which means multiply all of those, you get 256. Okay, so the middle one I didn't do. What'd you guys come up with for the middle one? 9 squared. So 9 times 9, or 9 squared. There is another one, though. There is another one that works. Bennett? 3 to the power. 3 to the fourth power. Yeah. 3 to the fourth power. That also works. Right? That also works. They both work. They both give you 81. So either of those is okay. Okay? Now down here is similar, right? 4 to the third. 4 to the third just means 4 times 4 times 4, which is 64 when you put it in your calculator, right? Same thing with 4 squared. Means 4 times 4, which is 16. 4 to the first power just means 4, right? And you just write that as 4. There's only one 4. No math needed. Nothing to multiply or add or multiply or anything. Here's a question. What is 4 to the 0? Most common answer I get is 0, right? Makes sense. You're doing multiplication and it's 0, so you think 0. So in order to be 0, it has to fit the pattern because we got some patterns going on here. As I go down, what am I doing every time? I'm losing a 4, right? So the people that say 0 say, hey, if you're losing a 4, there's no more 4s left. So wouldn't it be 0? Okay. So that should be the same thing we see on the other side. So over here, what are we seeing every time we go down the list? What are we doing? Dividing by 4, right? Dividing by 4. So if we keep that going, that's really what we're doing, right? Is it going to be 0? No, it's not going to be 0. What is it going to be? Positive 1. Yeah. Anything to the 0 power or anything to a power of 0, automatically change that to 1. It doesn't matter if it's a number, a letter, a fraction, a decimal, anything, anytime you see a power of 0, change it to 1. Okay, positive 1. It's always going to be positive 1 because it fits the pattern. Okay, well, let's keep the pattern going. If I divide by 4 again, what do I get? Not negative. I'm not dividing by negative 4. I'm dividing by positive 4. 1/4. You get 1/4 or 0.25. So a lot of times people see this negative and they think, oh, -4, that's the answer. It's just -1 times 4. That's not how you do exponents. The negative one, and I'm going to tell you the rule. The rule says if we have a negative exponent, we need to move it to the bottom, to the denominator, right? Because all of this has over 1, right? We don't write that, but it's got an over 1. So if we see a negative, the rule is move it to the bottom. If you move it to the bottom, it becomes positive 1. Okay? Same thing here. So what is this going to be? Instead of 4 to the negative 2, what's that going to be? 1 over 4 squared. 1 over 4 squared is the same thing as 1 over 4 times 4, which is 1 over 16. And if you were to do that in your calculator, divide by 4 again, you would get a decimal that's the equivalent to 1 over 16. Okay? So it doesn't turn negative. That's the biggest mistake I see, is that, oh, it's a negative exponent, so it turns negative. Nope. It has nothing to do with negatives. It means you flip it. If it's on the bottom, so these guys were on top, right? What if I have something like this? You don't have to write this down, but what if I have something like this? It's already on the bottom. Where does it go? If it's already on the bottom, I can't go any further down. It's already in the denominator. So where does it end up going? It goes up. It has to go up, yeah. So this guy is actually this, which is actually 25. Same thing, okay? All right. Okay, so now we learned a couple new rules. So the last two down here are the ones that we learned. So let's write them down. So if I have a negative exponent, it moves to the bottom and becomes positive. The exponent becomes positive. Or if it's already negative down there, right, it moves to the top and becomes positive. It either moves to the bottom, or if it's in the bottom, it moves to the top and it becomes positive with the base and the exponent. Okay. And then anything to the 0 power is always going to be 1. Not 0, 1. Anything to the 0 power. Number, letter, fraction, decimal, it doesn't matter. Anything to the 0 power is always going to be positive 1. Okay. All right, so let's go over these other ones. These other ones we've used before. Let's start with this guy, x, this guy right here. We've done this before. When we're combining, what do we do with the bases? What do we do with the exponents? What have we done with the exponents? We add them together, right? Yep, we've been doing that. That one we've been doing. What if we have division? What if we're canceling things out? What do we do with the exponents? Not multiply. What have we been doing? Divide, not dividing, subtracting. Subtract them. That's when things cancel out, right? That's the giant ones. Okay. How about this one here? A power to a power. What if I have a power to a bigger power? What do I do with both of those guys? That's when I multiply. Yep, that's when I multiply. When you have a power to a bigger power, multiply the powers. Okay, and then the last two. I have two things. There are two things inside the parentheses. They both get an A. So it's kind of like distributive property. You distribute the A to both. So X gets an A and Y gets an A. They both get the A. Same thing down here with the division. They both get an A. You distribute the A here, you distribute the A there. Okay. Everything on the inside gets the power because of those parentheses. Okay. Those are the rules we're going to use today. We're only going to use these rules. We're only going to use these rules. The problem is remembering how to use or to use the rules. That's why we put it on the front page, so you have the rules. Okay. So when we simplify, we're going to follow 4 steps, not rules, steps. We're going to tackle the parentheses first. If there's parentheses, we're going to get that first. Next one, if there's negative or 0 exponents, we're going to tackle those. And then if we can combine or cancel out, do that. And then the last thing is we're going to reduce the fraction if we can. If we can't, we don't need that step. Okay, so let's look at the first one. Let's look at 1A. Okay, so a couple things. Our finished answer cannot have negative exponents, cannot have bases that haven't been combined or canceled out, cannot have zeros exponents, cannot have parentheses left. Because if we've done all of our steps, those things should be gone. Okay. All right, so let's look at the first one, 1A. Step 1, parentheses. Are there any parentheses here? Nope, skip that step. Step 2, negative or zero exponents. I do have some of those. I got one guy here and I got one guy here, right? So what does my rule on the front say to do with them? Not add them. What does the rule say? What does the rule say to do with negative exponents? If they're on top, move them to the bottom. If they're on bottom, move them to the top. So they're on top, sorry, they're on bottom, so this guy's going to move north. So is this guy. So x to the negative 2 becomes x to the positive 2 power. X to the negative 1 power becomes x to the positive 1 power, because when they move north, they become positive powers. And then I had the x. What do I do with the x that was already there? It doesn't go down because it doesn't have a negative exponent. There is no negative exponent, right? What exponent does it have that we didn't write? 1, yeah, that's positive, right? So it stays up here with these guys. What about the denominator? What's left in the denominator? A 1. Yep, not a 0, a 1. Okay. So we have x to the second.
Sorry, when is the x to the fourth power?
That was my next step. When we combine, right? Step 3 says when we combine, right? So we're going to combine them, and I have x to the fourth power. Now the over 1 you don't have to write anymore. You can if you want. It's not wrong if you do. If you write the 1 on the bottom, it's not wrong. Okay. Done. All right. I want you to do B. I'll give you about a couple minutes. I want you to do B the same way you did A. 2B the same way you did 2A. Parentheses. No parentheses. Skip that step. Negative or zero exponents. I do have a couple negatives. I have this guy that's a negative, and I have this guy that's a negative. So they both got to move down since they're on top. So on top, I just leave y to the first power, right? Y stays there because it doesn't have a negative exponent. Now on bottom, I have an x to the first and a y to the first that moved. And then I also had the x to the third power. That guy stays because it didn't have a negative, so it doesn't have to go anywhere. Only has to go somewhere if it has a negative exponent. Okay. Step 3, combine or cancel out. Well, look at these guys here. What do I do with those powers there? If one's on top, y is on top, y is on bottom, what do I do to the powers? Giant 1, yep, that's a giant 1. We've seen that before, giant 1, good. Now I have a 1 on top, and I have x to the first, x to the third. Combine, and what do we get? 1 over x to the fourth. Yep. This time we need the 1. If the 1's on top, we need it. If the 1's on bottom, we don't need it. Okay. All right. Now let's look at these guys here. 2a. Write the following expression without negatives and without parentheses. Okay. Parentheses. Now I have a parentheses to a -2. I have a -4 and an x on the inside. So I have a rule for that. The rule said if I have multiple things to a power, they both get that power. So that's what I'm going to do. So -4 gets a -2 power. X gets a -2 power. They both get that power. Okay. I still have parentheses, but there's nothing in. It's just one thing in there, right? It's just -4 and x. Okay. So I'm going to move to the next step, which is negative exponents. So both of them have negative exponents, right? So I'm going to need a over 1 there, because the only way to make them positive is by moving them down. So on top, everything left. So I have a 1 still. On bottom, I have a -4 squared, and I have an x squared. The powers became positive because I moved them to the bottom. Nothing to combine or cancel out, but what is -4 times -4? Positive 16, yep. So 1 over 16, x squared. Done. Now look at B. I know the numbers are different. Yeah. Say it again. Say if you put 16. Oh, like so if you put the little thing, they won't. That's not a problem. Yeah, that's not a problem at all. Yeah. Okay, so look at 2B. I know the -4 is a -5, and I know the power is different, but what else is different? There's no parentheses, right? So I don't have to do step 1. 2B, I don't have to do step 1. I only do step 1 when there's parentheses. So I have to do step 2. Step 2 says negative exponents. I do have one.
So, like, on the 1 under it, then, like.
There you go. It's going to need a 1, right? So my question is, what moves down? The -5 and the x, or just the x? Just the x, yep. There's no parentheses, so the only thing that has a negative exponent is just the x. I see that mistake a lot. That's one of the most common mistakes. So -5 stays on top. And then x to the first, or just x. You don't have to write x to the first. You can just say x if you want. Why does the -5 stay on top? There you go. Exponent, right? Just because it's negative doesn't mean it moves. It has to have a negative exponent. Okay? That's what we're looking for here. That's the one that decides whether we move up or move down. Exponent. Okay? All right, let's get to the ones like this now. Okay? So these same steps, parentheses, negative or zeros, combine or cancel out, reduce if we can. Same 4 steps. Okay? So if I have a 4 steps, first of the 4 steps says parentheses. So I have 2 things on the inside. I have -3 and I have q to the -3. Both of those guys are going to get a 3 power. I'm going to distribute that power to get rid of the parentheses. Oops. The bottom I'm not going to touch right now because it doesn't have parentheses. I'll get to it later. I'm not done with the bottom, but I'll get to it later because right now I'm just focusing on parentheses. Okay. So I have -3 to the 3rd power. What is -3 to the 3rd power? Not negative 9. Negative 3 times negative 3 times another negative 3. Negative 27. Yeah, stays negative, and it's going to be 27. So negative 27. And then these two guys I'm going to multiply, and I'm going to get q to the negative 9. Okay. Done with step 1, no more parentheses. Step 2, negative or 0 exponents. I got a couple negative exponents, so there's going to be some moving. This guy takes the elevator down. This guy takes the elevator up. Negative 27 stays. So now instead of q to the 9th, I have q to the 6th. And instead, negative 6 stays on the bottom. And instead of q to the negative 6, I have q to the negative or positive 9 because it went down. So they just switch spots. No more negatives, no zeros. Skip that step. Now cancel out or combine. What can I do with the q's now? Exactly. I can make giant ones out of them, right? How many are going to be left after I do giant ones? 3. And where are those 3 going to be left? At the bottom or the top? Bottom. Good. So on top, I'm just going to have negative 27. No more q's because all of them got crossed out with giant ones. And down here, I have 3 q's left. Can't really combine anything or divide. I've done all of my combining and canceling out. My last step is sometimes if you need to reduce the fraction. Can we reduce this fraction? Yeah, we can. First thing we do is they're both negative and it's a division. So a negative divided by a negative, both of those guys are going to be positive. The next thing is I can divide both of them by positive 3. When I divide the top by 3, I get 9. When I divide the bottom by 3, I get 2. So I get 9 over 2q to the third power. Done. No more reducing, no more combining, no more negative or 0 exponents, and no more parentheses. We're good there. Okay. All right, let's go to the last page. I want you to try B on your own. Try B. I'll give you a few minutes to try B. Follow the steps, see what you can get. Even if you don't get the right answer, see how far you got before you made a mistake. And then the next one, see if you can do better. Okay, I'll give you a few minutes. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is take care of the parentheses. So I see on the inside here, I have a negative 3 and I have a b to the 4th. So both of those are going to get a squared. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite it so both of them get a squared. So I have negative 3 squared, or you can just do that in your head. What is negative 3 squared? 9. You can write it as 9. We're going to do that, but you can do that here. That's okay. And then b to the 4th squared as well. The bottom I'm not going to worry about right now because it doesn't have parentheses. I'll come back to it in about a minute or so. Okay. So again, we just said negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. What do I do with these powers here? Multiply them. It makes b to the 8th power. Good. Okay, now I'm ready to work on the bottom now. Yeah, right? B to the 8th? Because it was b to the 4th, right? And then squared. So if I have a power to a power, my rule said multiply the powers. Okay? Okay, so no more parentheses. Done with step 1. Step 2 says take care of the negative exponents or the 0 exponents. So the negative exponents is right here. I only have one negative exponent, so that's got to move up. So I have 9 b to the 8th. That was already there. Now I have it times b to the 9th. And then I have a negative 12 on bottom. Step 2 done. No more negative exponents, and I didn't have any 0, but if I did, I would put them in. Combine or cancel out. Well, I can't cancel out because both of the b's are on top. But I can combine them. So when I combine them, what do I get? Not 72. I'm not going to multiply them. Add them. Yeah, I'm going to add these guys. I'm going to add them because there is no power to a power, right? You need parentheses for that. Parentheses to go power to a power. It's just I'm combining them. I have 8 here. I have 9 here. Combine them, you add, you get 17. Okay. Okay, so no more canceling out, no more combining. The last step, can I reduce? I can divide both of these guys by 3. So that one becomes a 3, that becomes a negative 4. I get 3b to the 17 over negative 4. Done. Okay. All right, let's do letter C together. Okay, so parentheses. I see I have parentheses on top, on bottom, so I'm just going to write the top again. I'll worry about the top later. So the bottom, I have 3 things in here. I have a 3. I have an r to the negative 3, and I have a c. Each of those things I circled is going to get a negative 5 power. So 3 to the negative 5. R to the negative 3 to the negative 5. And C to the negative 5. Okay. I still have parentheses on the bottom. So I'm going to take care of this guy right here. I have a negative 3 power and a negative 5 power. What am I going to do to those 2 powers? If I have a power to a power, I multiply. Okay, so let me rewrite that without parentheses. 3 negative 5, r to the positive 15, because it's negative times a negative. Okay. No more parentheses. Okay, step 2, negative exponents. I do have a bunch of negative exponents. This guy's a negative exponent, needs to move up. This guy's a negative exponent, needs to move up. This guy's a negative exponent, needs to move down. Okay, so the new top is 15, r to the 6, 3 to the 5, because the 5 became positive, and c to the 5, because the 5 became positive. Their powers became positive. The new bottom is r to the 15th, c to the 8, because the negative 8 became positive 8. Step 2 is done. I don't have any more negatives or zeros. Step 3, Here I can do some combining or canceling out. These two guys and these two guys. So I have, let's see, 15 R's. How many R's would be left over when I canceled out? There'd be some left out because I have 6 up here, right? I have 15 there. So 6 would cancel out. How many would be left over? Would be 9, right? 9 would be left over. And those 9 would be on where? Top or bottom? Bottom. So we have R to the 9th. C's. If the C's cancel out, right? I cancel out 5 of them from the top. How many are left? On the bottom, right? 3 on the bottom. So it would be C to the 8th. Not the 8th, 3rd. Okay. So now I have 3 to the 5th left. Okay, last step. Bottom is going to stay the same since I don't have any C's or R's on top. The top over here, I can multiply this guy. 3 to the 5th is a number. 3 to the 5th is actually 243. Because 3 times 3 times, it's on the front of my page. It's on the front. It's one of the ones we did. So now I have 243 times 15. So 243 times 15, and I get 3,645. So these two guys are multiplied together. So these guys are multiplied together, and you get 6,000 or 3,645. Okay. All right. So we're gonna do the last one together, and then we're gonna do one problem. You're gonna do one problem on your own in your notebook. Okay. Then we'll be done for today. 2 more problems. 2 more problems. We're done. Okay. So when we're doing notes, I've told you guys this before. When we're doing notes, if you know what to do, keep going. I want you to try it on your own. You don't have to listen to me, and you don't have to poke your head up unless you make a mistake or you're stuck, right? That's how you take notes in math. Okay? Um, if you're still not sure about that first step, then focus in on me, okay? So here we go. Second to last problem. Last problem on the paper. First thing is we have parentheses. But inside the parentheses, I only have one thing. W to the 4th. So what I'm going to do here is, what am I going to do? Actually, what am I going to do with these powers? Multiply them. Good. Multiply them. So I'm going to have -3 times W to the -4. Okay. No more parentheses. There was only one thing in there. So it was pretty, didn't take as long to get rid of the parentheses. Okay. Negative exponents. I got 1 here, moves down. I got 1 here, moves up. So on top, I have a -3, j to the +6. On bottom, I have a +5, w to the 4th, because they become positive when they move up and they move down. No more negative exponents, no more zeros. Can I combine or cancel anything out? No, because I got J's and W's. J's and W's do not cancel each other out. They're different. Can I reduce negative 3/5? Nope. Then I'm done. Okay. All right. So if you're in the back, can you go grab a tape roll for your group? Tape them in. We're going to do one more problem that's in your notes, right where you, underneath where you tape this in, and we'll be done for today. This will be problem E. Okay. So as tape's coming from the back, here's the last problem we're going to do. So wherever you're going to tape this, do this problem. Last problem we're going to do today. I'll give you guys 3 or 4 minutes to work on this, and then we'll do it together, and then we'll be. Okay, so even if you're not done, we got about 7 minutes. I want to make sure we have plenty of time. So I'm going to get started. So if you're working on it, keep working on it. But I just want to make sure we have time. Parentheses. Take care of the parentheses. I have 3 things on the inside. A 2, an x to the 0, a y to the second. Each of them is going to get a negative 3 power. Okay. So each of them is going to get a negative 3 power. So it's 2 to the negative 3 power. X to the 0 to the negative 3 power. Y to the second to the negative 3 power. Everything else stays the same. Okay. I'm not done with step 1 yet. I still got to take care of the parentheses here. So I need to multiply these 2 guys and multiply these 2 guys. So I get 2 to the negative 3, x to the 0 power, y to the negative 6 when I multiply. And then I get 2 x to the third y. Okay, so no more parentheses. I've distributed the negative 3. I've multiplied. Now I'm done with parentheses. Now the reason I had to over 1, yeah, right? Yep, exactly. This guy right here turns to a 1, right? So you can just write a 1 instead. Yep, that's a good idea. We're doing that. Now negatives. Move this guy down. Move this guy down. And that's it. So I have 1. See that 1? You don't have to write the 1. You can if you want. The 1 that was an x to the 0. And then I have a 2 x to the third y, because that was left on top. On bottom, I have the 2 things that move down there. 2 to the third, y to the 6. So the negative 3 became a 3 when it moved down, and the negative 6 became a positive 6 when it moved down. Okay. You don't have to write the 1 on the top because it's just 1 times 2. 1 times 2 is just 2. 2 to the third. I know what 2 to the third is. What is 2 to the third? Yeah, it's 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. So let me change that. Combine, cancel out. Well, I can't combine, but I can cancel out. Those 2 guys I can cancel out. So if I have 1 y on top 6 y's on the bottom. One of them is going to cancel out on top. How many am I going to be left with? 5 on the bottom. Last step. Simplify, reduce. Yep. They both can be reduced by 2. So we divide them both by 2, and you get 1x over 4y to the 5th. Did I do something wrong? What did I do wrong? Third, yep. Yep, I dropped the third. Should be third, yep. Yep, sorry. Should be x to the third. I forgot to write that third down. Yep. If I would have done that on a test, like if I were a student who did that on the test, that's a +3. That's a +3 out of 4. You did the problem right, you just forgot to write something. So that's a good example of like a +3 answer. Okay, but if I want all 4 points, I got to remember to write it. Okay. All right, guys. Okay, so tomorrow we'll do a assignment based off of this. Okay.